Hello and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast. I'm your host Matt, joined as always by our producer Josh, and as is becoming the theme, we are minus Sly, who again will be involved in the pick show, particularly as he won the fucking pick show last weekend, very depressingly. We'll be discussing that. We'll be discussing UFC Fight Night, headlined by Jamal Hill taking on Thiago Santos. It was also the tough finale. So we had the two tough finalists, the return of a previous tough finalist fighting his first non-tough opponent, a co-main event that needs to be discussed. Great finishes all round. In fact, it was a card with nothing but finishes. 10 fights, 10 finishes, history in the making. Sounds fantastic, but it does also mean that you end up, when you're watching live, seeing a lot of broadcast that isn't fight related. But that is neither here nor there. Before we crack into it, guys, if you are enjoying the content, click a like on the video. Feel free to drop a comment, even if it's negative. We do appreciate all feedback. And if you're not subscribed, do subscribe as well. With that all out of the way, Josh, shall we discuss a card that I thought was going to be shit and actually turned out to be pretty damn good?
Yeah, very exciting card. Only the second time ever in the Zuffa era the judges have not been needed across the entire evening. Do you know who headlines the event the last time that happened, Matt?
No. Was it Conor McGregor?
Michael Bisping, the
Oh,
Count
shit.
himself. I can't tell you anyone else that was on the card. I just saw that little nugget come up somewhere. I might have been online, but yeah, I thought that was cute because obviously Mike's calling the fights as well. I don't know if Mike knew that.
Yeah.
I don't. I didn't.
That's
I keep the commentary down quite low if I'm honest when I'm watching the fights back. Makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, I can understand that. That's pretty cool. I mean, what I'd say is it helps when two fights drop off, particularly when one of those fights you felt was dead certain probably going to be a decision. 10 fights is easier to get all finishes than 12, but it is still damn impressive. There were some great finishes. There were some unexpected finishes. There were some good fights. Best fight of the night is certainly the first fight that we're going to talk about, which was our main event. It was definitely the fight on paper I felt the most excited about. I really like Jamal Hill. I think the guy's got loads of star power, loads of talent. He's in a division that desperately needs to have an exciting young star like him in it. And I kind of felt this was going to be a passing of the guard fight. If I'm honest, Josh, I probably thought this was going to be a lot more one sided than it turned out to be. I kind of thought Jamal Hill was going to steamroll him. And credit to Thiago Santos, man. That experience, being a little bit more patient, I thought he set a lot of traps. And I thought first couple of rounds, Jamal Hill, he wasn't having a good time. He wasn't having a good time. I thought after 3 rounds, it was actually 2-1 to Santos on my scorecards.
Hard to say. I think just with the kind of the damage because I really thought Santos might be done at the end of the second there. I was tempted to give him the first two. I gave Santos the third. I was amazed. I really thought he was finished after that second round. Not just in terms of maybe being rocked a little too hard. He looked tired, and I'm just so used to seeing this kind of busted knee, getting older, feeling tired, Maheta. And this is the best I've seen him in years. This is I think everyone's been saying it's the best he's been since the John Jones fight when he busted his knee, and he really fucking showed me something in that third round. That was exciting to watch. Being able to bring it back against a guy as fast and powerful as Jamal Hill. Um, so I guess after round three, you had it 2-1 to Santos, right?
Yeah, I thought he just. I mean, the first round was really,
Yeah.
really tough to score because Jamal Hill was landing, but then again, I thought that you were getting big reactions from Santos when he landed. A couple of those leg kicks really
Yeah.
bothered Jamal Hill. And I felt that, for me at least, and maybe it's not a case of whether or not he run the round, but I felt that Jamal Hill was coming up against the first opponent that on the feet was just giving him problems that he hasn't really had to deal with. Stuff that works, shots that he doesn't have to feign or set up too much, just weren't quite working in the same degree. He wasn't having the same level of he was having a lot more resistance. And I think he was struggling with that. I think for Hill, actually, throughout this whole fight, I think it was a real okay, this is what the top kind of feels like. And it's even against a declining guy who's not as good as he used to be, it's not easy. And he's experienced and he's not going to panic because you're explosive and you start well and you're fast. And he knows how to deal with that. and he's got a longer game plan in mind. This was a tough one for Hill. This was a real, I thought they described it very well. It was a real grueling win. He had to earn this the hard way. And I'm very impressed with the fact that he did earn it the hard way. And, you talk about that third round. I think in the end, it's just, the stamina has just become too much of an issue with Maheta. We didn't see this in the John Jones fight. He went 5 rounds and he went hard for 5 rounds.
Yep.
And I think with the knees and the age, he looked tired after the second round, beaten up. Third round, I think that was his second wind. And you could see in the fourth round, it's not really like Hill landed anything. It's just he outlasted him to a certain extent. Maheta burnt too much in that third round, didn't have an opportunity to recover. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't rewatched the fight. I think in the fourth round, he went for another takedown, failed on it. And I think that might have been like the last, like he kind of felt like he needed to get on top.
Yeah, it
With
wasn't
like a
sprawl
cheap
as much as
takedown.
full. I haven't watched it back since either, and I had this afternoon off. I had all the time to do it. I apologise, dear viewer. But yeah, it was very much, you kind of get him down in that sort of almost to the side half guard position, and when you're too tired to kind of move and scramble from there, it really is just shelling up and taking some damage. But yeah, Maheta, before the John Jones fight, he was able to train consistently, stay in shape. Ever since then, it's been a constant juggling act with the injuries, getting older. Man, he
Not
really.
just that, dude. He's gone from. Sorry, Sergey, I was just going to say, not just that, but in the last year, he's gone from having I don't know if they're married or if they're fiancés or what the deal, but his partner in Yana being a fellow training partner. Their spare time together could be extra training time. They're both fully committed. And now, not only is she obviously not necessarily assisting in that,
Yeah.
he has to obviously deal with helping her while she's pregnant and now having a newborn. So his situation has, his support structure has changed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But he still he definitely brought it out of Jamal. It's harder to read a man's movement and the footwork, and really kind of trying to read where the hands are going to go when they're skilled in all facets of MMA. You know that they're going to be able to clinch up. They've got the kicking game. They've got the hands to back it up. When he's feeling light on his feet, like he was in the first round, particularly, really could kind of close the distance quite nicely. It's very hard when you don't know exactly what's coming at you at any given moment, because a lot of times you'll settle into a rhythm, and especially with the younger guys and the people, the athletes that are more of a specialist, have a particular strength and they've built their game around it. Even someone like Ryan Hall, where it's really kind of just spamming the kicks or that kind of Imanari looking reverse back roll thing. But Maheta, he's a fucking vet, and he has been good for a long fucking time. So these were 4 great rounds for Jamal to really get a taste for it. Like you said, like this is what like the top of the rankings is like. Abso-fucking-lutely. But he looked pretty good. He looked pretty good in putting Santos away. Grueling as it might have been. And I didn't know if he was really going to run through him. I thought he probably would, but still, I wasn't surprised after the third round, I've seen Santos do this. It was vintage in a lot of ways. Probably the last time we're going to see that, though. I'm not saying they're going to cut him off for this, but how many more wars has he got in him?
Well, I think that's the thing. For me, this was his lot. I think we talked about this on the pick show. I think the fight that you do is you do him versus Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
And you say winner stays alive in this old vet, still in that top 5, top 8 mix with a sniff at the title if the right fights fall and the right results come their way. If he loses that fight, it's a long way back. And what I'd say is, even if they did book that fight, I don't feel him and Anthony are in the same situation. Anthony lost to Ankalaev under injury circumstances, coming off a 3-fight win streak, being ranked number 5, I think.
Yeah, but I think Smith would probably like to get that one back. So, how long ago did they fight?
No, but
2018.
I think I could see Smith losing that and still feeling like he could make one last run. Whereas I don't see Santos losing that fight and still thinking that he could make another run to the title. That's just me.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
For Jamal Hill, listen, he got through it. I thought he adjusted really nicely. I thought he was being he was trying to just land stiff jabs early, and then he started using the jab and just kind of popping it, and then using that to set up the right hand. Sorry, the left hand. My apologies. Inverting my thing. And I thought once he started doing that, he started having a lot more success. I think there was a little bit of ego that comes into it when you're used to steamrolling through every guy that you fight on the feet. You come out in that first round and you just think it's going to be easy. And I think he had to adjust to that, and he did. And listen, he's called out Jan. I like that fight. And I think Jan should take that fight because he's not going to get the title shot, in my opinion. I think they're going to do Glover versus Yuri again. And I think that's the right decision to make. Now, that leaves Jan with a choice. Do you want them to match you up against Ankalaev? Or do you want to push for that Jamal Hill fight? Because I know which guy I'd rather fight if I'm Jan.
To be honest, I think Jan still kind of stacks up quite kind of well against Ankalaev as well. Hard to say.
Yeah, but
thing is with Jamal Hill.
Here's the issue with Ankalaev. It's 2 counter punches. And the problem is Jan gets in trouble when he feels like he's the one that gets forced into being the aggressive one. So I think Jan would prefer to have a young, aggressive fighter that's going to come at him and make mistakes.
A lot of Hill's best shots, though, do come on the counter when someone's barreling in. It's not always like it was against Johnny Walker, where he just kind of dives in with the overhand. Jimmy Crew... memory's betraying me today. I need to
listen,
but
Hill can do everything on the feet, but he has an aggressive mindset. I'm not saying that he's necessarily an aggressive fighter, but he would, if you even got into a counter-striking standoff, he would be the more likely guy to try and take the fight to the opposition. And he would do so because he hasn't experienced, like Jan's experience against Thiago Santos, the negatives of what can happen if you do that.
I don't know, a little bit. I do kind of feel like Hill does prefer playing the Matador. I do feel like he'll be aggressive in bursts, but a lot of the times quite controlled. I don't know how technical he is when he's really moving forward, as it is where he just kind of stays quite calm in the pocket and finds that nice counter or hits them with the lead hook. He does have a lot of ways to get it done. He has a lot of highlights, but I feel like his best moments, his biggest moments come when someone's kind of taking him for granted and rushing in a little bit because he's fast and he's powerful. As soon as you're moving in, you've done half the work for him. He's quick enough to just to get his shot in and get his head off the center line before you can do any damage. And shit, I think even against Paul Craig, didn't he get a good one in? I don't know. I think both of those are good fucking fights. I don't know if Jan would have a preference because obviously with the Ankalaev one, he's got less to lose. There's a lot more hype behind him. But
that's true.
Yeah, if he doesn't get the Yuri fight, it's going to be interesting to see the way they move forward because it probably would become sort of a Mexican standoff between those three who you're going to book next. And depending on how they win, that probably is going to be a title eliminator.
Kind of has to be. But I'm happy. I'm really happy that they're looking at the Glover fight as the first option.
That would be a lot of fun again.
Even listen, I don't actually think Glover's going to win that fight, but I think he deserves the opportunity.
I don't know. He was winning the previous fight.
This is true.
If
rematches favor the younger man, though.
Depends how quickly they do it, though. If they're turning around again for end of this year, start next. How much of a step is he really going to lose between then and now? Now and then.
Do you want to hear an interesting stat that they've been bringing up a lot on the UFC broadcast? The younger fighter wins 68% of the time.
I think it would be higher, given the turn of phrase, the colloquialism, the myth. Honestly, I can't even get my words out today. I would have thought it had been higher if people are like, yeah, no, it's always the younger guy. It's like they say, yeah, there's more women than men. And you look at it, it's pretty much 50-50. In fact, I think there's more men than women at the
moment. There's more men than women, but that's entirely due to China. In every other world, it's slightly more women than men. Ever so slightly.
Yeah.
China has an issue because of the one-child policy. What would end up happening is that they prioritize the males over the females. So what's now happened is that there are, I think there's something quite, it's some crazy number. There's like, it's more than a few million more men than women in China, and that's a big fucking problem because that means that like no matter how you cut it, people are gonna fucking end up with Parmela as their companion for the rest of their life.
I I like to be Chinese, I guess. I don't know enough about it,
Yeah.
but
But most
let's.
other places, the world will correct itself. It's like even after World War One, where you'd think there would be loads more women because all the men died. I think you then just had far more male children born in the years that followed. It's like people that believe in collective consciousness. That like as a species, we have like an innate understanding of each other.
Yeah, I. There just could just be lots of very pertinent factors that went in during that era. But either way, let's move on to the co-main.
Let's talk about this co-main. So with 3 fights to go on this card, I felt I was a fucking genius because I only got one wrong, and I knew I was going to get it wrong, and I picked it because, unlike Josh, I'm not a twat to the people that come on our show.
You pick
I
against
didn't
Eric
think I was.
Anders all the time.
I picked against him when he fought Andre Muniz, sue me. And also, he didn't give us what Alvi gave us. We'll talk about Alvi later.
I think that was more us than Eric though. We were that was our first
Yeah,
interview. You know, we was just
we weren't at our
little
best.
green behind the ears. That was all.
We weren't at our best. We'll talk about Alvi later. That's depressing. For now, we need to talk about Geoff Neal, a man that, I mean, I'll be honest, this was probably the 2 fights I got wrong on the main card were the two that I was like the most confident on. They were the ones that if you asked me 100% gun against your head, which are your two backers, I would have said Luque beating Neal and Muhammad Usman losing because he's shit. And we'll talk about the second one of those afterwards. But Geoff Neal, one looked fucking fantastic. But I'll be honest, for me, the story of this fight is really Luque, who looked a shadow of himself, man. I mean, I felt that there were holes that Geoff Neal exposed, though I think were there previously. But there was just something missing from Luque. There was an intensity that wasn't there. There wasn't any venom in his shots. It didn't really feel like he was, fighting the way that he usually does. And I mean, that southpaw stance and that left hand just completely destroyed him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought he made some good adjustments in the second round. Throughout that first round, Geoff Neal was kind of hitting combinations and taking his head off to the same side every time. I felt like he was being quite predictable, and I wasn't sure if he was kind of being proactive or reactive there. I thought maybe he was kind of looking at the way, because like you say, Luque was very lackluster to start. He said he didn't really have the same kind of fire in him in the previous fight, but it was going to be different this time out. And I always think, is that excuses or is that accountability? You really kind of turning up the heat because didn't look great against Bilal, didn't look good at all in this first round, and I thought Geoff Neal looked quite predictable. In the second round, definitely made those adjustments, made it a fucking war. But too little too late. He'd taken a lot of damage. Geoff Neal was splitting that guard for fun. Shit,
It,
I haven't seen Luque finish before. It hasn't happened before, but that was brutal. I almost thought like Keith Peterson might have, maybe Luque owed him money.
earlier, yeah.
I mean,
It,
shit. If he'd stopped it during
here's
those
the thing that
uppercuts, would it have been wrong? Probably not for me. I like the way he let it go. Maybe it did look brutal.
it was weird though, dude. Like, listen, I know that Luca doesn't move his head a lot. I know he likes that high tight guard, but it just seemed too easy, man. Like a southpaw stance and a left hand seems to be all that you need to beat him. And even in the second round, I know Luque made a couple of adjustments. He was throwing the kicks afterwards, but a lot of it seemed to be really more that I felt Geoff Neal kind of took his foot off the gas. He kind of gave Luque that space a little bit to sort of, feel like he could stand there, throw a couple more shots, and he wasn't being given that opportunity. There was a left hand coming straight down the pipe every single time. And really, I felt third round, again, it was like Luque, you know, tried to do the same thing that he did in the second round. But by that point, Geoff Neal was back to doing what he was doing in the first round. So it just, I don't know if it's a case that Luque just hasn't fought people that have thrown a lot of straight shots at him. You know, neither guy's very tall for the division. I wonder if that's maybe a factor. Maybe Luque's used to kind of being able to come on the inside of a taller fighter's strikes. But there was nothing that, everything was a hook from Luque from the hands. And just that alone, it's going to negate any reach. It's going to take longer for your shot to land than the other guy if he's throwing things straight down the middle. And it just seemed too easy, man. It's like, is Luque maybe just not as good as we thought? Has he not fought high, decent level strikers? And this is the first guy that's kind of like really just kind of exploited a hole and he's shown that he can't adjust? Or was it just a bad night that everybody can have a bad night. It's just a shame that that's two bad nights in a row from now.
I wouldn't say that he hasn't fought against good strikers. He's fought Leon Edwards,
Lost.
Nico Price, can be quite dangerous on the feet. Jalen Turner's
Not technically. No, he's not technical though, Nico Price. He's winging shots as well.
He's not, but he does go straight with a lot of them as well. So is Jalen Turner, Barbara Rayner, Mike Perry at the time, and again the Stephen Thompson loss. But it's
Lost to Thompson. I will forever hold out that he lost that Mike Perry fight.
fair enough.
Mike Perry got done dirty on that one.
Then isn't who got their nose absolutely rearranged? It was still Perry, wasn't it?
That was Mike Perry.
Yeah.
Mike Perry, but he won the first two
I'm
rounds.
not saying didn't.
Clearly won the
just
first
saying.
two.
I'm just remembering the nose. I think Luque might have lost a bit of the fire. Yeah, he works at his best when he makes it a brawl, makes it a war, and just kind of like breaks people and then starts bullying them. But it lost Bilal Muhammad, you can't really do that to, and started very slow in this one. Geoff Neal in his corner maintained that he just doesn't have a safe, so he just says he doesn't have a good second round ever. Again, how much is it that Luque kind of being desperate? He was kind of like a wounded animal at that point. He did make some nice adjustments there, and I thought the hook was there quite often when Geoff Neal was kind of leaving himself overextended with his head out to either side. But again, it's that kind of shot that you throw when you're tired and you really don't want to go to the end of the fight. So I guess, careful what you wish for. But those uppercuts were fucking tasty. That was a brutal finish.
Well, he was just very technical. He was extremely technical, but very simple. I mean, really, that was boxing 101. Southpaw stance, keep that left hand coming. Left hand's going to land sometimes quicker than the right, and keep yourself out of danger. And all Luque did was just walk forward with a high guard, which served him absolutely no good against any of those left hands. It was a shame, man. I'll tell you what it kind of reminded me of a little bit. It had elements to it of Costa versus Adesanya, where it's just a guy just gets picked apart. You know what I mean? And a guy that likes to put pressure and is used to coming forward and landing big hooks and just wasn't given that opportunity. Just easily beaten by a combination of somebody that had the right style and him having a bad night. And the shame for Luque is that, 2 fights ago, we were talking about him potentially getting a title shot. And now, that kind of feels like it's a good, he'd have to win like 4 in a row to get into that territory.
Probably. I mean, people once said the same of Lawler. Although it's a very different landscape to what it was back then. Way more fighters on the roster. Yeah, I need to see Luque really turn it around. Just in terms of kind of the attitude of the heart, because it didn't look like he's really all the way in now. Geoff Neal, I really wonder how far he can go, although this was a nice win. And as much as we're kind of throwing shade at Luque, it's still a big name in this welterweight division. Geoff Neal marches forward. He's probably going to get a big fight off the back of this.
Yeah, deservedly so. I just worry. I think one of the factors that helped Geoff Neal is that he doesn't usually have any height or reach advantage at welterweight. And I think he not having to fight at all a bigger, longer guy really helped him here. I think when you look at what happened in the Neil Magny fight, I think that body type is something that's always going to be very difficult for him to handle.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I think we spent as long on this one as we did the first fight. Should we start getting onto the Ultimate Fighter finales?
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of felt the co-main and main deserved a little bit more of our attention. We can breeze through some of these finishes, and we can talk about the fight that lost me the pick show because I was calculating this as I was watching, and I had you one method ahead, and you and me were matched on the last three. So I kind of knew that as long as I get the Zach Poaga win that I needed, that was me getting back on the winning board. But it didn't happen. Zach Poaga looked fantastic in the first round, partly because Muhammad Usman is not a good and not a UFC level MMA fighter. But then he gets caught with a fucking check left, and it's just like,
It was a
you know,
beautiful punch.
it was a fucking good punch. But come on, man, that shouldn't be knocking you out. That knocks you out because you're a light heavyweight fighting at heavyweight, and you've packed on a bunch of extra weight. But it's not good weight. It's not good weight.
Yeah, he came in
And
heavier than Usman, didn't he?
yeah, and Usman, I mean, I'm just gonna put this out there. I watched this guy fight twice in the house against worse opponents, and didn't have that kind of knockout power. Was heavier, but seemed bigger in the UFC. And craziest thing, since being in the tough house, has gone from being a pretty smooth-skinned guy to a dreadful acne all over his stomach, his back, his face. It just wasn't there in the house. I mean, must have called it off his brother. It's terrible. And then all of a sudden he's knocking people out. Good for him. Two brothers who've won the
Maybe.
UFC, tough,
I would just
Ultimate
say
Fighter.
that it was that perfect on the button hook though. It's like big rig against Campman or fucking Fitch. Just like I don't understand how I made him fly. And we're all like, because you were juicing. But I, it was just one of those perfect kind of punches. Um, I wasn't paying enough attention to the back knee, but I love a good rumor. Let's get some Chinese whispers
And I'd
going.
like to shut down anybody that says that this is purely me being bitter about losing the pick show because of this fight. I'd like to kill those
Oh no,
allegations
we
immediately.
yeah we throw
I am a
aspersions on people all the time.
professional podcaster here. I rely only on the facts and Instagram speculation.
I read tea leaves. That's how I know who's juicing.
It's probably more accurate than Instagram.
I don't know. It didn't help enough on the picks this week though.
No, it did not. Fucking sly one. Listen, he won. He punched him. Nice, well done. Whether he stays at heavyweight, goes down to light heavyweight, I do not see a bright future for Usman.
What about Pauga?
He's too old. I actually think he could be good. I think at light heavyweight he could be good. I think I think there was a bit of arrogance. I think he probably thought this guy is so shit that I can basically just do what I want. And if I'm honest, he got a little lazy with that jab. He did it for like the last 2 minutes of this first round where he was throwing it and just doing the same dip to the same side. And it's just like, you can't just assume you're not fighting somebody that's going to pick up on these things and make adjustments. That's something that you should have been aware of. There should have been a bit more of a feint. You should have maybe looked for a pullback to try and bait out the check left. But
It's that classic problem of when your strategy is stick and move, keep working the jab, don't get hit. At a certain point, like over a 5 minute round, like it's bad enough in boxing, but over a 5 minute round, you're like, it's just one mental lapse. And if that's when you get caught, that's when you get caught. He had a few maybe, but it's not fun pretending to be a heavyweight. I imagine. I mean,
no.
Rashad Evans got it done in his series, The Ultimate Fighter, but I can't really think of too many little men winning that heavyweight style tournament. Anyway, yeah, I'm not really too excited about seeing Usman fight again, but good for him.
No.
And yeah, I think probably a bit more interested in Zach, but I do wonder. It'd be good to see him in his actual weight class.
Yeah.
Then I'll come out with judgment.
I just think technically he's a much better fighter, and I'm not interested. Listen, he won. Like, fair play to Usman, man. Other things have not worked out for him. He's tried this. He went into the Ultimate Fighter. He's got there the hard way. He won it fair and square. Asterix. But just for me, it's not an actual asterisk, but just in my opinion, an asterisk. I just don't think that a guy approaching his mid 30s who's basically just a big athlete and is kind of coming into the sport as late as he did. Like, I know that Eric Anders has had success, but he started way earlier after football didn't work out in MMA than Mohammed Usman's done. And I don't think he's going to have the time to adjust. And by the time he starts to get anywhere near good, it's going to be at the same point that most of his athleticism starts to go away from him.
Fair enough. I just don't think he's very good. I'm happy just to leave
Yeah,
it at that. But yeah,
heavyweights was not a good season of the Ultimate Fighter,
well, I think
nor was the flyweights.
really because
But
this fight, well, the performance was pretty fucking good.
this girl, this was the one girl, man. She was the one girl that made this whole fucking tough season worth it. She's a little bit nuts. By a little bit nuts, I mean she is literally fucking cut your dick off insane. But
Oh
she's
yeah,
kind of
doesn't seem to like to respect the end of the round or the fight, but
no.
let it go.
But she's kind of cool. Like she's savage when she's fighting, and she had this. So her first fight in the Tough House was against the one girl that beat her, and it was quite a contentious decision. And the rematch, like the whole week, she was just like death staring there. Like one of the heavyweights on her team is like a life coach or something like that. So he was like doing some like confidence work with a bunch of people in the house, including a couple of the people from the other team. And she just went like absolutely ballistic at him, just like, you're not meant to be helping them. They're the other team. Like, what are you going to be giving them? How do I know that you're not just like giving them every single detail of my training plan now? And he's just
It's
like,
been done
I
before.
don't know. He's like, I don't know, because I'm sitting in the living room in earshot of you, talking about nothing to do with you and not even talking to the person you're fighting.
Uh, Sometimes they get aggressive in the house. Do you remember John Dodson
Uh,
feeding all of
yeah,
the like reports and assessments and breakdowns and fighting styles of everyone in his team?
it was a prick that whole season, though.
A lot of people were a prick on that season. Kira Kawasani, fucking Brian Caraway.
Brandao.
Oh my god! I mean, like I love Brandao as a fighter, not a person. Um, yeah, that was a mad season. All right, I am going to go back and watch The Ultimate Fighter, as I'm also going to catch up with Contender Series. I got a lot of fighting
But
to
she was
get through this week.
respectful after the fights. That's the thing I wanted to say. She was respectful afterwards. Not in this case.
Not so
She
much.
fucked up Brogan Walker, man. And do you see what I mean? She's like a less skillful, further behind in development Casey O'Neill. Like, striking, really, really bad. But she has a willingness just to fucking blitz forward, grab her. I mean, actually, really similar to Pena, to be honest.
To be honest,
But
looking at her work, the grappling game, I was seeing like flashes of Tatiana Suarez. You know, she by no means anywhere near as technical, but the flexibility and the strength and the ability, like the way your body shape, your body frame, your flexibility and your strength allows you to do things and work to mount, and just how powerful she was once they hit the mat. I was like, shit, okay, I'm a little bit interested.
I don't know if she's got there's a physicality level to Tatiana Suarez.
Yeah,
You really
just that
feel like she's
you've been
dragged.
wrestling since you were in fucking diapers. Like that's different. But
I
there's
don't know if
flashes of it,
Juliana
man.
Miller has that, but she's got a great attitude. I mean, she's very Pena-esque. I mean, the footwork needs, the striking needs a lot of work, but I thought she was actually landing the jab really nicely. And, it's like, who do you want winning the Ultimate Fighter? Do you want a really, decent striker, good power, nothing against a Brogan Water, who's 32 years old, and a lot of her footage, and even in the little reel that they show before they walk out, is sort of saying like, yeah, I mean, I really didn't want to leave Guam, but my coach kind of said it might be a good idea to, really focus on my training in preparation for this fight. So I'm here, I'm in America, but I really wish I was back in Guam compared to like the youngest in the house, 25 years old, loads of potential, fucking 100% dedicated to the game. She's the one that I think could actually be something. I'm glad that she won.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. This that it was a really fun fight, or a really fun performance. I'm definitely keeping an eye on Juliana Miller, and Killer Miller is
Yeah.
always a good nickname.
Yeah, well selected on that one. Very well selected. Right. Well, let's stop talking about the Ultimate Fighter. Let's talk about Sergey Spivak very quickly. I was quite happy with my pick. This pretty much went exactly as I thought it would.
Yeah, man. Sakai has no answer for him. I don't know if Augusto's going to get another fight in the UFC. To be honest, he probably should, but that's four on the bounce now.
They
And
shot him up too quick, man. He wasn't ranked where he should have been ranked.
no, but
That's
he
the
did
problem.
get some good wins going. Um, I mean, shit, Arlovsky, Tybura, and Ivanov, all good wins. But that's the last of it. He hasn't won since, and maybe he might be better off getting paid in like PFL or Bellator for a bit because Sergey Spivak's just the tip of the iceberg. There's some young guys coming through in this weight division. We've talked about it to death, but Sergey Spivak for me is still on that list. So is Chris Daukaus. Obviously, you got Romanov, Aspinall. It's a scary time to be a heavyweight in the UFC, especially if you want to be a ranked heavyweight. Go on.
He's lost 4 on the bounce.
Yeah. So I think that might be it for Augusto, but we'll see.
For his health, man. I mean, Spivak's a scary guy, dude.
And he's learning
You know,
English.
I know. I liked that he clearly needed to have things translated to him to understand it, but he felt very comfortable answering in English. And
asking for money.
he
Who
didn't get a
got the
bonus.
bonuses?
The bonuses went to Usman, Geoff Neal, and Brian Battle, and then Jamal Hill and Santos got fight of the night.
Can't argue with Brian Battle getting a bonus there.
I can't argue with that.
All finishes on the cards. Unlucky Sergey.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, maybe the next one.
Yeah. Let's talk about Terence McKinney. Got caught a couple of times. Listen, the guy's super dangerous, but he's so aggressive. He needs. I really like him, and he's so exciting. But having now seen what we've seen with the Drew Dober fight, you know that there's adjustments you've got to make if you want to get past a certain level. And so when I watch his fights now, it's not just, okay, did he win and look impressive? It's like, are you showing that you can improve in these areas? So when you get that step up, it's not going to be the same situation you had before. And I'm not necessarily saying that. It's a really good bounce back win after the Drober one. Better fighters will clip you harder than Gonzalez did and make you pay for it. They won't give up their back that easily. But he's confident, man. He's a live wire. He's exciting. He called out Paddy the Baddy. They're not going to book that because they don't want to derail either of these guys right now. But yeah, I like Terence McKinney. Bring on. Let's see more.
Yeah, only 2 times in his career has he gotten outside of the first round. It's knockout or get knocked out. It's like fucking Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights. If you ain't first, you're last.
You're last.
I would love to see a more intelligent approach. Eric Gonzalez is not a UFC caliber fighter. I think Eric Gonzalez, that's the Ghost Peppers, probably going back to the regional scene.
Also, however cool Ghost Pepper might sound, it actually, in implication, is not quite as good of a ring name as you want, because a Ghost Pepper is extremely hot. But there are many humans that eat ghost peppers on a very regular basis with little problem.
Yeah, and somewhat unpalatable. But shit, it was still a fun fight for me to watch, just because I love T-Rex.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eric.
T-Rex he's fun, man. He's
been stacked a bad card. Jim Miller and then T-Rex.
He got the Paddy chant wrong, though.
What, T-Rex or Gonzalez?
T-Rex. He tried to do the Paddy chants when he was calling out Paddy. Instead of going, Paddy the Baddy, he went, Paddy the Baddy. So, nah, dude, that's not how you do it. It's still fun. Still fun.
There was a few that, actually, I need to look it up, but there was another one that I thought someone got wrong as well. We'll get to it when we get to it.
For now, let's move off the main card and talk about the prelims. Let's get this out of the way. Sam Alvey versus Michelle Oleksiejczuk. I kind of knew this was going to happen. I picked Sam Alvey because he's our boy, and I really didn't want him to set this record, but that is unfortunately a bad knockout loss. He broke his jaw. That's never fun. Fucking hell did he try. I mean, he tried to stay in that fight for as long as he could. Even with the broken jaw, he was still giving it everything he had. Tough motherfucker. But he's getting old, and he's up against a division that's got some young up and coming guys through. And the problem with Sam is that I think everyone kind of smells him like wounded meat in the wild. And so that first round, everybody is gunning at him. And when you're on that kind of a losing streak, you just feel like you need to get through those first couple of minutes, and no one's going to give him that opportunity in the UFC now. So that's like 7 or 8 without a win. Michelle, it's a win. It's not going to do too much for him. It's an obstacle he had to get past. For Sam, I know that they don't cut him, but I think that's it. I don't think they're going to keep him around anymore.
Well, he said before this fight it was going to be his last fight. I don't think that's going to change. Last time he broke his jaw, he lost a lot of weight. And, you know, Alexei finally fighting a middleweight. He's been fighting a light heavyweight in the UFC up until now. Again, just it didn't look perfect, but he's a fucking wild man. He's very durable. He hits so hard. When he finally mixed it up to the body, I was like, shit, this is definitely the end. Because you never know with Sam. Just get that wild counter punch sometimes. But shit, yeah, fighting with a broken jaw for as long as he did, taking as much punishment as he did. Smiling Sam Alvey is an absolute legend. I hope he's going to fade away happily into the sunset. Added another kid, I believe. I think I caught that on the broadcast. Man of 1,000 children. But good on you, Sam.
And listen, we'll be missed either way. Like, I'd love to see him win. If I do say that I think it's time to go, it's only because I just don't want the guy to take unnecessary damage. Or maybe there's other fights, maybe at a different promotion that you know he can get some wins and ride off to the sunset with. And a top guy, man. I sent him a message on Instagram before the fight, and he responded like within 2 minutes. That was in like 2 hours before his fight.
Nice. What did he say?
Sorry. All I said, man, is hey, I didn't want to say best of luck because I'm worried some people think that's superstitious. So I just said, give him hell tonight, man. We're all rooting for you. You know, and never said thanks for coming on the podcast, man. It meant a lot for you to come on a small little podcast. And he said, thanks, man, and thanks for wanting me on it. It's just nice, you know. It's just like there are a lot of people that would very understandably, and I sent that not expecting him to look at his Instagram messages before the fight, but you know what I mean? He's responded straight away and still took the time out of his day to, you know, in a big moment, in what could have been his last UFC fight, still sort of respond to that message. I thought that was class.
Yeah, no, top guy.
Top guy.
He'll be missed. All right.
Well, let's go from an old vet to a young prospect. Let's talk about Brian Battle. I kind of thought this guy might be good when he came out of the Ultimate Fighter. Last season's Ultimate Fighter, him and Petrosky both looked like they might actually be pretty fucking decent. But when Petrosky got his last win, it really made me think, okay, maybe Brian's actually really, really good.
And that was at middleweight.
Good. And that was at middleweight. And Petrosky's moved down. He's moved down. I think it is the right move. If they can make middleweight that easily, consecutive times in the house, I think welterweight is the right decision for them. Takashi Sato is a dangerous guy, man. I've seen him be out-grappled. I've seen him be smothered on the floor. I have not seen him be knocked out that clean. That high kick was perfect.
Yeah. It made me think of Cerrone against Story. It's just 1-2 kick. Beautiful. Everything about it, absolutely textbook. Like, man could be a problem at 170, honestly.
He's got physicality, height, reach. His attitude is great. He's showing phenomenal improvement in between fights. He's got a great personality. He's got confidence. No, he can't. But man, he understands that he needs to make his moments on the mic.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Other than that, great fucking post-fight speech. It's just...
I'm going to say it, man. Chael-esque. Because the way he did it, you could tell that he's got no animosity.
Yeah, I don't like the way you spell your name, bro. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. Got to do it with a Y. He does.
But he said it with a confidence. He made like Chael would.
Yeah, no, I had to check. I had to look it up. And then I forgot, and I had to look it up again just now, because it did make me really doubt myself.
Can I say something funny? So this is what happens when you watch these fights at fucking stupid o'clock in the morning and you smoke a lot of weed and you're very high, as soon as he said you spell your name wrong, my immediate brain thought is wait, he spells it brain. And
Oh
then he
my
said
god.
why, and I was like, oh yeah,
Ah,
um,
brawn.
that one, that one. Um, but no, Brian Battle's cool, man. One thing I will say though, I know that he was super excited. Just a good tip. Once you notice that your opponent is still like lying on the ground unconscious about 20 seconds after you hit them, maybe just calm the celebrations down a little bit, just until he's okay, just until he stands back up and everything's fine. That's the only thing I'd say.
Yeah, but
And that's
again,
only from that's from the Chael handbook. That is from the Chael handbook.
yeah, they're not always making the best of decisions at this moment, though. You're pretty fired up, and Jesus Christ, that was like a perfect kick. It's like you wouldn't celebrate against your boyhood club if you scored against them for another team, but if it was an absolute fucking worldie, you might smile. You know, it's hard not to.
Yeah,
It was just a beautiful moment for him. Plus, you're making your debut at 170. There's unknowns.
fighting a guy with a really good kickboxing background. You know, Brian Battle's more of a guy that's learned MMA than kind of has like one specific discipline. And I always feel that those kind of guys take it as a real badge of honor when they beat somebody at their discipline. There's like that chip on their shoulder of like,
Yeah,
I don't feel like I'm quite in that kickboxer club. Okay, well, I'll fucking knock you out and show you.
yeah. No, it was a fucking beautiful little setup with the 1-2. Hit it perfectly. Vicious, vicious kick. Fucking chills. I mean, hearing Dean Thomas and Rashad Evans talk about it as well. I turned the volume back up for that bit. I really fucking enjoyed Rashad Evans and Dean Thomas on this one. How much of that
They're
did you
great, man.
catch?
Well, Din Thomas is great every single broadcast. I don't understand why they don't utilize that guy more. He does everything perfectly. Like he's a personality, but he also understands the sport well enough to give direct insights. They should go to that guy way more. Rashad Evans is always great, man. If you're a fan of Luke Thomas, he does a lot of the morning combat stuff if Luke Thomas or Brian Campbell isn't available. So, you know, I've heard his insights on a lot of different things, and I really like hearing the way that he talks about fights and fighters in particular. Um, they've got a great broadcast team, man. In fact, interestingly
No, no.
enough, if you
I'm not a big fan of Dan Helly. I don't know how you feel about him, but he kind of gets under my skin
I'm
a little bit.
indifferent.
I feel like
I'm
he takes the
indifferent.
shine off the better moments.
I'm indifferent to Dan Helly. He doesn't bother me. But I tell you what, if you, for all you listeners out there and watchers, if anybody is still watching, check out MMA on Point. They have a really good video talking about if the UFC has a commentary problem. And I know that this is something that a few people talk about, but they kind of go into it in a bit of detail and who the culprits are, who the good people are, what the general sort of hardcore fans are saying, and who they're pining to see more of. It's an interesting watch. It gives some good perspective.
Do they go into why it is the way it is? As in they constantly have someone in their ear telling them what to say, what not to say, and what to hype up and what angles to go into. And I think DC kind of deviates from it a fair bit, but not to the point that like he's being a cool, edgy rebel. But again, just to
It's
the detriment of the broadcast in a slightly different way.
Actually, it focuses more on the criticism that fans have that when it's DC and Joe Rogan, they're a bad partnership. That neither of them are particularly well prepared. They tend to go off on tangents that aren't always relevant. They'll kind of jump on a narrative and stick with that narrative, and a whole variety of other things. And people are saying that the argument is that for the hardcore fans, they want to see more of people like Paul Felder, who's a more laid back approach, kind of lets the action unfold, sort of talks about what's happening in front of him, or people like Bisbing, and then but kind of balancing that against the fact that the casual fans want Joe Rogan and DC. That's the memeable moments. That's there's a lot of casual fans that will decide if it's a big card based on if their commentary is involved.
Yeah, that's a shame because also you don't want like it's unfair to expect like John Anik to be driving the bus when he's stuck with Rogan and DC. Someone needs to know what they're talking about.
But
I miss
I
Brian
mean,
Stan so bad.
but I'll give you an example. So UFC 277, throughout the entire Brandon Moreno fight and the post-fight interview, Joe Rogan kept referring to them fighting again being a trilogy. So talking about how this would set up the trilogy fight between them.
Wait, what was their first fight in the Ultimate Fighter house then?
No. Talking about Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno.
Oh right, okay. Sorry, I do talk about like Kai Kara France if they would like.
Sorry, I wasn't clear. I wasn't clear on that. But no, referring to in the post-fight speech when obviously both of them were in the cage talking about, do you want the trilogy? And that's just a careless mistake that you wouldn't see some of the other broadcasters make.
Yeah.
Then there's the
what is
fact
the
of
name for it on the fourth one? I can't. I've had deja vu. I've done this before on the podcast as well. The fuck is it for?
I don't know. Well, it would be a quadrilogy, I suppose. But I don't know if that's real because I only know that because I used to have the Alien quadrilogy. But I don't know if they just called it that because there were 4 Alien movies or if that's the actual name.
Maybe they do it like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That was like a trilogy in 5 parts. You should call it a trilogy in 4 parts. Probably not.
I just want to call it a series. I want this fight to forever be known as the series. Okay, either way, we digress. Let's get back onto topic, away from commentary. 2 more fights to talk about. We got a couple of fight announcements that we want to go into detail in. So I'm just going to say about
Poppins.
Sorry, losing my words. Poppins, Corey McKenna. Good to see you back on the win streak. Thought you fought a much smarter fight, and yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah, cheeky little Von Flue choke. Because when I thought she might have that arm triangle, some of these women are so goddamn agile, and then to actually be able to land that Von Flue choke, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I really like Corey McKenna. I like her whole personality. I think she's just somebody that's going to work extremely hard to get better. 5'3" though, that wrestling has got to be so fucking good.
Yeah. Well, there was a lovely takedown in that.
It was a good takedown. And she's got the jiu-jitsu game. That's her bread and butter. Yeah. Miranda Granger. She didn't look at her best, but she's been out for like 2 years. She's become a mom. First fight back. I mean, I still think Miranda Granger's got some tools.
Yeah. Didn't look too bad. I just thought Poppins just really got to work her game.
And let's talk about the opening.
Yeah, because we might as well spend like a little bit on this.
I want to talk about this. Stephanie Egger, if you were going to try and deny a tap, you can't look that guilty. Can't look that guilty. You've got if the ref stops a fight and you haven't tapped, okay, look at Michael Chiesa. Look at the people it's happened to. Look at Robbie Lawler. Look at how fucking ballistic they go. Like the absolute fury. And that's from people that thought that they'd gone unconscious. Okay, if you think that somebody thought you tapped just because the other person let go and they took the ref's word for it, you would be screaming. You wouldn't be standing there going, yeah, let's see the replay.
I wonder if, because I've heard of this before, fighters kind of lightly tapping anywhere where it's out of view to get the other fighter to release the submission. So that because again, I talked about it very recently, you have to let the ref stop the fight. And I know she's very emotional about it, saying she want to be a good example to the kids she teaches and everything. But also you're a professional, and some of these competitive athletes will cheat their fucking socks off. Let the ref stop the fight.
You know what the fucker was? The fact that that tap was in the one camera angle they didn't have. That is just bad luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but apparently there's a judge sat right there, so...
yeah.
I didn't even know they could do that.
Yeah, well, also Herb Dean was sitting there as well, and he was pretty damn sure that she tapped. But that second judge, the judge who was on that side as well, I think just gave the confirmation. And listen, like...
Egger might as well have just owned up to it at that point.
I know you should hold on to it. But it's like, this is still martial arts, man. It's like she released because it's an arm bar and she knows that she's going to break your arm.
The other thing is, right, and I disagree with this tactic as well. But the old way is kind of like lock it in, and that was locked in. Lock it in, extend a little. If they don't tap, extend some more. But once they start tapping, you can start easing off. It's still locked in. Like at that point, they know you're being a gentleman about it, or a gentle lady about it. And it can go right back to snap if it needs to. And I disagree with that tactic as well. Just hold it as best you can without snapping it, and let the ref stop the fucking fight. That's what the ref is for. But yeah, Egger, she was looking pretty good up until that point as well. I wondered how her top control was going to work over, and if she could get to side control against Bueno Silva and her jiu-jitsu game off her back. But yeah, fuck it. Cheat better, or don't cheat at all.
Listen, I like Bueno Silva, man. There's something to her. She's got a good attitude. Even in man, it was her loss to Manon Fiore where I think I became a fan, because she was so in that fight. She was so willing to just stand there and keep eating damage and bring it on, which isn't smart. I'm not saying it's smart, but it's good to know that you've got that in you when you come up against somebody that's technically better.
Oh no, for sure. All right.
Right. Well, that was the card.
Let's do a fight
But that's not the end of our show, because we have had two of the biggest fight announcements for UFC 12. One's official. The other one hasn't been signed yet, but it's all but done. Both guys have agreed. They want it. It's happening. It's 5 rounds. It's the fight we're going to talk about first. It's Dustin Poirier taking on Michael Chandler. It's the fight they had to do, man.
Yeah,
come on, look at the way the other divisions matching up. These are the two perfect guys. These are, and this is a huge fight because let's be honest, outside of Oliveira, the other contenders coming up are not necessarily what I would describe as big names or fan favorites, or necessarily guys that we would have a casual fan-friendly style. But holy fucking shit, does Poirier and Chandler have that style? And the winner of this fight could still become champion. I believe that. Because whoever wins this fight could potentially get a title shot straight away, but could easily just be one more fight away from a title shot. You lose this fight, all of a sudden, you're fighting the Gamrots of this world. And I'm telling you, neither of these guys will beat Gamrot. They probably won't beat Makhachev. They might get lucky against Oliveira, stylistically, only because he's willing to trade. But this is their moment.
Yeah,
5 rounds.
Dana White privilege meets the people's champ. This is, I mean, depending on how that fight goes, I think it's almost certainly going to be the next title contender.
Yeah, because here's the thing: Dariush against Gamrot. The winner of that fight's not getting a title shot. Gaethje's pushed back down the line.
Unless all the other fights are a little dull. Just nothing crazy. Just a bit of a tepid decision. In that instance, Dariush getting another win might do it. Gamrot would still need to get a bigger name.
Yeah, but either way, these guys are in the prime seat. There's a reason they're getting a 5-round fight. There's a reason it's a co-main event at Madison Square Garden. This is there for one reason and one reason only. Get fans in seats, absolutely explode the roof off, and by pure coincidence, stake your title shot on the following pay-per-view following UFC 280, where we're going to see who the next lightweight champion is.
Yep. And see who's the king of Coconut Creek in the 155-pound division. So,
damn fucking straight. And Josh, straight off the bat, obviously we're not doing picks this early, but what are your initial thoughts?
Probably Poirier. Just
better fundamentals.
Yeah, better fundamentals and a lot more dangerous across 5 rounds. Hands are so fucking good. If he doesn't get caught with anything stupid in the first round and a half, shouldn't really lose a round after that. He might lose, maybe Chandler might have a shot at edge him a second, but if it was going to go decision, I would think Poirier would take the last 3.
Can he take Chandler's best shot though?
Yeah, can Chandler land Chandler's best shot? That's what I'm thinking. I don't think Poirier can take his best shot. Can he land it? I would like to see. It's not a certainty.
Southpaw stance, you're not necessarily going to have the leg kicks as available. easier to land the right hand on a southpaw. It's a tricky fight for Poirier. He's got to be switched on, and he's coming into that fight almost 11 months out of action. So you got to make sure there's no rust in that first round.
Yeah, yeah. I think Chandler might be taking this fight a little too soon after his previous two. Wait, the whip, two losses then the win, wasn't it? I'm getting it wrong with Chandler. All right,
Correct.
ignore me. It's been a long day. All right, I'm still going Poirier.
Let's talk about it.
Still going Poirier.
I would lean
Right
Poirier.
now.
I don't want Poirier to win that fight. That's not the only fight we got announced for UFC 281. We've got our headliner. Izzy is back in record time. Did not think they were going to put him on a card against Alex Pereira this early, but it's happening. And what that tells me, I don't know if the UFC are all in on Izzy. I think this is a show us fight.
Yeah.
I think if they because I think he didn't deliver good sales on the pay-per-view. And it's a couple of lackluster performances, not overly exciting. So I think there's an element of, well, okay, let's see if you're our guy now. Let's put you on this big card.
I don't think it's really the UFC that pushed this fight together as much as it is Adesanya kind of making it happen in the same way that you had.
You think he's really that keen for it?
Yep. Yeah, much in the same way that Joanna wanted to get Karolina Kowalkiewicz into the UFC so she could fight her. He's been kind of pushing Pereira in his own way. Like, he thinks that fight's going to happen.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's just wanting a quick turnaround. Knows that Alex isn't going to say no to the date. So he's feeling good, feeling ready. Let's fucking go. Maybe the UFC are pressuring him into it, but I just don't buy that. Not at this stage. He's done so much for him. Maybe the pay-per-views weren't great on the last one, but I think there's a bit of grace there because it doesn't really matter this year. Maybe next year that will matter when they renegotiate the ESPN deal, but right now I don't think they give too much for shit.
Well, it's a tough fight for Izzy. It's a really hard fight. The two kickboxing matches are close. First one, there's a real strong argument you can say Izzy won it, and the decision went to Pereira. Second fight, Izzy was winning that fight hands down. He was winning that fight until he lost it. It's very easy to say, okay, he's a younger guy, he's improved more, he's more established in MMA, this should be his. But he's not going to wrestle. He's not going to add that element. This will be a kickboxing match with small gloves. And I just keep thinking this, man. Alex has 25 minutes to land that left hook. That's the danger.
I see it different. I don't know how well Alex is going to be able to land that if Izzy isn't just kind of like walking down straight like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Izzy does clinch, use the fence, threaten takedowns. Why wouldn't you take all weapons available to kind of fuck with the other guy and fuck with the other guy's game plan? I think it's going to be.
I don't think he's going to go for takedowns. I don't think he's going to go for takedowns, but he's already said in his interviews, I think he's going to try and use the clinch a lot. I think he feels from their kickboxing matches that he had an advantage in the clinch. And that was an area where in kickboxing his work was basically over. I think maybe he feels that elbows are going to come into it. Izzy has a very varied arsenal. I think him and the skill set that allows him to use every single potential weapon does give him an advantage. But that power man is just different. And it's not like the Costa fight. He sets it up more technically.
Yeah, it's a very different comparison from Costa.
Izzy doesn't have the reach advantage. I tell you what, man, it's a good fight. It might only be his fourth UFC fight, but it's a good title fight. It's a really good title fight.
It's fun on paper.
They can market the shit out of it.
I hope it lives up to. The kind of billing, and that it is a close fight. We'll see though. I'm excited for it.
We'll see.
It's worked. I am excited.
Yeah, and those are the big fights announced.
Cody Garbrandt is fighting Ronnie Yahya in October.
Yeah, I mean, we'd already known that fight was going to happen. They've pushed it back. Another fight that they've pushed back is Alexa Grasso taking on Viviana Alucho. That was meant to be on our card coming up this week. That is now actually, from the looks of things, going to be a main event of a fight night later in the calendar. Not going to lie, I don't hate it because I think that is going to be a title eliminator. And I think that's why they've main evented it.
Nice. Any other upcoming fights?
I'm sure there's been a few, mate, but there's nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. Not in MMA, but there's rumours that KSI is going to be fighting Jake Paul in 2 weeks' time.
How exciting. We've also got Bellator this weekend, naming Gracie against Yamauchi. Lima Lane McFarlane's coming back. Vanderford's on the cards. It's not a hugely deep one. Justine Kish and Deanna Bennett are fighting. And of course...
PFL is again this weekend.
Yeah, PFL. Roy McDonald against Umalatov. Oh, shit at that. Sadibu Sai's fighting Carlos Lil. It's obviously it's the playoffs. It's the semis. So it's fun. Oh no, quarters. Semis. I'm an idiot.
It's the playoffs.
It's the playoffs.
It's the playoffs. That's what we know for sure. So if you're one of those people that doesn't want to have to worry about a bunch of fighters you don't know, just watch now because you get to see who the winners were.
Yeah, it's a fair way to put it. It's about.
And on that note, I think we're going to call it a day and start recording the pick show. So I will just say again, like the videos, subscribe, comment. I mean, hell, this is the end of the video. If you have made it this far, you have watched us for an hour and 8 minutes. You can press a goddamn like button. There's not a lot to ask for.
Type out never again.
You've already... And maybe even leave a comment. Look out for the picture dropping later this week. More news to come on the relaunch in the next 2 weeks or so. And as always,
bye Dave. Bye Dave.